Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Nothing Phone 2 and compare it against the iPhone 14 Pro Max and see which specific phone is a better one for you. Now, if you want to pick up either one of these phones, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off, the first thing I want to state is that with the Nothing Phone 2, this is a cheaper phone than the 14 Pro Max. So these aren't really supposed to be like direct competitors. The Nothing Phone 2 is a much cheaper phone. It's hundreds and hundreds of dollars cheaper than the iPhone 14 Pro Max. But I will say the 14 Pro Max is honestly probably going to be cheaper than the 15 Pro Max. So this could also be considered. I mean, and within next few months, the 14 Pro Max is probably going to go down a couple $100s anyway because it's going to be older. So this will be kind of interesting to see. Now, with the iPhone 14 Pro Max, this phone originally came out in 2022. A pretty, decent phone when it first came out. I mean, it was a very, very good flagship. And on the front of this phone, you were getting a 6.7-inch LTPO Super Retina XDR OLED display. Now, it's 120Hz panel. They removed the notch for this dynamic island thing, which I really don't even care that much about. And it's a very, very good looking display. I think Apple, once again, knocked it out of the park with this type of screen. And I think that was something that was very cool. I loved when they put in this much effort for these types of devices. And I think it looks very nice. Now, with the Nothing Phone 2, this device is very interesting. So it also has a 6.7-inch LTPO OLED display. So it is basically the same size display as the iPhone 14 Pro Max, which is interesting because last year, the Nothing Phone 1 had a 6.55-inch display. So I think they strategically made this display bigger so they could actually go ahead and kind of compete a little bit more with the, these types of flagships. It's also an LTPO OLED display, although it's probably not as good as the iPhone 14 Pro Max's. It's still 120Hz. It's 1080p, and overall, it's a very good looking display. I like the Nothing Phone 2's display. I think it's decent, but I would definitely say the iPhone 14 Pro Max's display is better. I think it looks sharper, and I think it has a lot more going for that panel than on the Nothing Phone 2. It's not the end of the world. It's not like a deal breaker or anything, but that is kind of one thing that I did notice on the Nothing Phone 2, that it isn't as good as something like the Pro Max or Pro panels as far as I can tell. On the bottom, you're getting a lightning port on the 14 Pro Max. You're getting USB-C on the Nothing Phone 2. Pretty much flat sides around this phone though, which honestly looks pretty cool. And that's probably a big asset for a lot of people out there. And on the back of both of them, you are getting these glass backs. So on the 14 Pro Max, you're getting this frosted glass back, which I think looks great. I think it's a pretty good looking panel. Again, not that much to complain about here. With the Nothing Phone 2, a little bit of a different story. So this is that standard glass back. So with this one, you're getting basically the standard glass back. But the interesting thing is that you are actually getting these lights on the background. So these are lights that you can actually go ahead and light up separately on your device, which is honestly a very cool thing. So you actually have the ability and the capability of basically enabling these lights on the back of your phone, and it honestly looks so cool. You can kind of configure them whichever way you want to, and that's a really awesome thing that you have the capability of doing on your Nothing Phone 2. So that in of itself is a really, really cool thing, and I'm a massive fan of that. So thumbs up from Nothing Phone for kind of making those types of things. You're also getting wireless charging on the back of both of them, but you are getting reverse wireless charging on the Nothing Phone 2, which is honestly very cool. We don't really have this type of capability on the iPhone 14 Pro Max just yet, but the Nothing Phone 2 does have it, which is honestly pretty cool. So in terms of the outside, lots of differences, but a few similarities. And I don't know if there's a direct winner here. I would probably say the Nothing Phone 2 has more features on the outside, but the 14 Pro Max probably is the better feeling one with a probably better, premium feeling device when it comes down to it. So that kind of covers it up there. In terms of the camera qualities, this is the bigger difference here for sure. The iPhone 14 Pro Max has that triple camera setup. So a wide, ultra wide, and telephoto lens, where the Nothing Phone 2 has the dual camera setup basically, a wide and ultra wide camera. So they both have the ability of doing 4K at 60 on the back. The Nothing Phone 2 though can only do 1080p at 30 on the front, where the iPhone 14 Pro Max can do 4K at 60 on the front of that phone as well. And that in and of itself, in my opinion, is a really, really big difference. You would want, at least I would hope, that when I'm getting a phone, I'm able to do 4K at 60 on the front and the back. And with the Nothing Phone 2, having 1080p on the front and a phone in 2023, even if this thing is considered a mid-tier phone, that is still a really big difference, and that's a big deal. I need a phone that can do 4K at 60 on the front, even though I never film it, because I want that type of capability. And with the Nothing Phone 2, it's a step up from the Nothing Phone 1, I'm glad, but still it's something that the Nothing company needs to focus on, and as long as they can put 4K at 60, even 4K at 30 on the front is good. This one needs a little bit of improvement there, but regardless, the iPhone 14 Pro Max, I would say definitely takes the cake here. It's a much better camera than the Nothing Phone 2, and I don't think anybody would argue otherwise. It's a much better camera with more features, and I mean, there's just no competition here in my opinion. Now, in terms of software and longevity, I would probably favor that the iPhone 14 Pro Max is going to be the phone that's going to last longer than the Nothing Phone 2. We are really not 100% too sure what's going to be happening here with the Nothing Phone 2. I imagine it's going to get a couple years of software support, but with the iPhones, we kind of have a track record of what phones are going to get what versions of software, and although we're never 100% right, there are still lots of times where we can look at a phone like the iPhone 14 Pro Max and be like, oh, like it's probably going to last as long as the iPhone 13 Pro Max, or it's going to last longer. So we have kind of a track record of saying, okay, like this phone's going to last these amount of years. The Nothing company has only been around basically for like a year and a half, so we really don't know how long this phone is going to last. It could last 20 years or it could last 2 years. We really don't know. So we're going to kind of wait and see what happens here. But in my opinion, the iPhone 14 Pro Max is probably still going to outlast the Nothing Phone 2 from my experience. So moving on to the performance side of things, the iPhone 14 Pro Max internally has that Apple A16 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 gigs of RAM, where the Nothing Phone 2 has that Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chipset inside with 8 gigs of RAM on the base model, but it does go up to 12 gigabytes of RAM. And what's a really cool thing about the Nothing Phone 2, in my opinion, is that this is actually a really big step up from the Nothing Phone 1. So with the iPhone 14 Pro Max, its chipset is a decent upgrade coming from the 13 Pro Max, but you're really not going to notice it that big of a difference. Like it's going to be kind of like the same type of experience, even on heavy intensive gaming. It might be faster, but you probably wouldn't be able to tell. With the Nothing Phone 2 coming from the Phone 1, that's actually a really big upgrade. And another big thing here is with the Nothing Phone 2, that chipset was a flagship chipset of last year. That is a really decent chipset to have on a device like this. It's not that old, and because it's the 8 Plus Gen 1 of last year, it's way more optimized than the 8 Gen 1 that came out early last year, and it actually has the same chipset basically as the Galaxy Z Fold 4. So that was a very good chipset, and although it's like kind of like a year old as of right now, it's still a very good chip, and I'm very happy with the performance I've gotten from that phone. Gaming is going to be great, emulation is going to be amazing, and it's a very solid experience chipset for sure. With the iPhone 14 Pro Max, this is going to be a very smooth phone, very few glitches all throughout, and that's probably going to be the more stable phone probably when it comes down to it in my opinion. But I definitely am surprised with the Nothing Phone 2. That performance on that phone is very solid, and that again is a really big difference here, and that gets a thumbs up for me for a fact. Battery life wise, I would probably say, the Nothing Phone 2 has the bigger size battery of 4700 milliamp hours, and I will definitely probably tell you that the Nothing Phone 2's battery life might be better in some areas. But I do think the iPhone's battery is more consistent, and you kind of know exactly what you're getting with when you're using that type of device. So that might be another thing to keep in mind here, but regardless, I think both devices are very good, and there's not really one that's like way better than the other one. So to kind of sum up this whole entire video, what I'll tell you is, I definitely do think a phone like the Nothing Phone 2 is a very solid phone. I think it's good. I just don't think it's worth the price, like it's almost $700 that it's going for right now, or $600, whatever it is. I think you're much better off waiting until that phone goes down to like $350 in the used market, and that'll probably be a way better phone. But I will definitely tell you, with the iPhone 14 Pro Max, it's kind of the same thing. It's a very expensive phone, and there's just so many other phones you could buy for these price tags that are so much cheaper than these ones, like the iPhone 13 Pro Max, like the Galaxy S22 Ultra, like the Galaxy S21 Ultra, even like an older, even like an iPhone 12 Pro Max. Those are way better deals than something like these newer phones that are still kind of in this like weird, area. So that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.